Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We have an awesome guest today, but first, really quick, I want to thank our sponsors, BioPro Plus by Bioprotein Tech. You can go to bioproteintech.com and use the code FREEMIND to get $30 off a month's supply. BioPro Plus is a non-synthetic growth hormone alternative. You just take a little bit of the liquid under your tongue each morning, and it's packed with tons of advantageous growth factors and other constituents that increase your libido, your mood, help you with recovery. I mean, the list of benefits is immense. I used it to recover from knee surgery. I've been off TRT for several months. I'm taking BioPro Plus, and I feel amazing. So I can't say enough good things about it. BioPro Plus. Go to bioproteintech.com. Use the code FREEMIND. Get $30 off. All right. Also, justworkco.com, where you can get all of our t-shirts, and I'm actually wearing one in this video. Any shirt you buy there supports the show, so we greatly appreciate it. justworkco.com. Lastly, as always, firstphorm.com/hurt. That is the only company that I get nutritional supplements through and have for the past half decade. First Phorm is an American company that supports American values, and I can't say enough good things about them. The owner and founder, Andy Frisella, you guys probably have heard of him. Awesome dude, stands for the right things. Amazing quality on the products. Like I said, only products I've been using for 5 years. Firstphorm.com/hurt, Hurt. Okay. My guest today is Ethan Buck. He is an online coach and trainer who lived a pretty crazy life until turning things around. He toured with a band all around Europe. He's fought Muay Thai, gotten into drugs, alcohol, all kinds of craziness, and now he's a massively successful online coach. We had a fantastic conversation about manhood, about business, about turning things around, leveraging your adversity to overcome and actually use it as a tool to your benefit, and many other things. Hope you guys enjoy this conversation with Mr. Ethan Buck. We'll jump right in, brother. Welcome to Free Mind Podcast. It's a pleasure to have you.
Cool. Likewise, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I believe I discovered you through Andy Lewis, buddy over at Norse Fitness. I think we connected somehow on Instagram, and then I listened to your episode on his podcast and really enjoyed it and reached out to you and said, hey, man, would you want to come on and kind of talk about your story? Because I think that you are someone who is a story of overcoming adversity, you know, fighting your demons and prevailing. And I think that that's an important message, especially for young people to hear today, man. So it's an honor to have you.
Honor to be here, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So I guess why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners, kind of who you are, what you're all about, and then we'll jump into, I'd like to discuss your background, your story, and how you came to where you are today.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, my name's Ethan Buck. Live in Central Texas. Moved here from Portland, Oregon for good reasons at the right time. And so I used to play in like punk rock bands, toured the world, been to over 45 countries. Awesome experience, wonderful experience. Used to live in Britain and then in Eastern Europe. But with that came a lot of bad habits. So if you imagine you go on tour in a van for 30, 45 nights in a row, you're playing every night, you pick up some drug and alcohol habits, and those turn into terrible behaviors, and actually for me, it turned into a lot of violence. So I'm sure we'll get into it eventually. I basically overcame all that, found Muay Thai and fitness, and lost over 100 pounds. Then I kind of became skinny fat and unhealthy. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum there. And eventually a trainer at a gym I was going to was like, hey man, I've noticed you're like trying to help all your friends. Cause I was trying to help people kind of in the same situation as me, but I didn't really know what I was doing. It was kind of like in the beginning, you know? And he kind of planted that seed. He's like, hey, why don't you become a trainer? You ever think about that? You ever think about like helping people? It seems like you're passionate about it. And it was like this aha moment because I was like, I don't know what to do. I know how to like play punk rock or metal, but I don't know what else that I could do with my life. So yeah, man, he helped me out. He guided me through the process, and today he works for me. I've built a successful online coaching business. We have hundreds of clients around the world, and it's an honor to have someone like him who kind of helped me, get out of that, work for me now. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah, it is. It is a beautiful thing, man, when you can essentially plant a seed with someone, and this is speaking from his perspective, right? He just recognized the potential in you, made that small suggestion, and that was enough to sort of be the catalyst for completely turning everything around for you, really. And now that has in turn created opportunity for him because he's able to work with you on this business that you've grown. That's a beautiful thing, dude. And I try to pick little lessons out of everything that my guests say for the listeners, and that right there is a big one, right? Like don't shy away from paying someone a compliment or just recognizing the potential in someone and telling them about it because they may not even know it. Like you were exemplifying all these traits that have now made you a fantastic trainer, right? And you've turned into this man that you are. But at the time, you didn't even realize you had those, and he suggested it to you, and then it got the snowball going, right? So I think that's awesome, man. That's really cool.
It's absolutely true. I think as being creatures of habits, we're creatures of habits also with thought patterns and narratives.
Yes.
So I was working in a bar in a kitchen and just thinking, well, that's me, right? And you just get used to it. And I'm sure there's like some thoughts in the back of people's minds when they're doing jobs or just things they don't really enjoy in life that maybe I could change it, but they don't maybe believe in themselves very much. And a lot of times people have never actually had a decent amount of compliments. Maybe their circle is just kind of toxic or their family didn't treat them well. So you're absolutely right to have someone compliment you and kind of be like, hey, you can do something else, right? It seems like such a simple thing, and it actually is, but it can really shine light on some people's thought patterns and the potentials they have.
Yeah, it does, and it makes your life better too. If you live your life in a manner such that you try to recognize the potential in people and help them harness and create value while you're also doing the same, I find it to be incredibly fulfilling. And this is like, I'm in my mid 30s now, owned a business, had a bunch of employees. I've done some things in life, and I'm finally realizing this, right? It's like it took a lot of time to cultivate that, but some people just intrinsically are that way, and they see the best in people and they recognize potential in people, and that's really cool. So I'm sure he knows that he played that role in your life, right?
Yeah, I remind him of it frequently.
That's good.
So
That's good. I was going to say you
yeah.
should if you don't, for sure. That's
I
awesome,
try
man.
and do with friends as well. Just like a gratitude kind of voice notes, kind of text, here and there, and just to express gratitude. I think practicing gratitude is really powerful. So
Yeah.
yeah, I always remind him of that when I send it to him.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's great. So, all right, you're on this specific path early in your life. You're wrapped up in partying, touring Europe, drugs and alcohol, no fitness whatsoever, and then you sort of have a rude awakening of sorts. I think I heard on Andy's podcast you were saying you stepped on the scale, it hit 300, and you actually cried. That's
Yeah,
profound,
yeah,
man.
yeah. Saw that number and teared up, but then just shoved it down immediately. It was like, that didn't happen. It'll be fine, type of thing.
As we often
Yeah.
do as men, right?
Yep.
Well, I think that's important to highlight too, man, because for those who are just listening and not watching the video, Ethan is in fantastic shape. If you check out his Instagram or his other social, he's obviously in fantastic shape now. So it's never too late, I think, is an important thing for people to realize. And like, if you step on that scale and you cry, it's okay. You can turn that shit around, right? You're in the driver's seat.
Exactly. It's unfortunate. A lot of us have to kind of hit that rock bottom before we take action. It just seems to be a trait that a lot of people have, and it does come down to kind of denial of your situation, the reality or the gravity of your situation,
Mm-hmm.
to where you're constantly just shoving it down, ignoring it, and then you have that moment where you're like, "Oh shit, I almost died," or the scale went over 300 pounds, and all these kind of thoughts come to you. Like in my case, it was, yeah, it's no wonder I'm ashamed to take my shirt off in front of friends when we go swimming, or even like during times of intimacy. It was like, yeah, I'll just keep my shirt on, just
Right, right.
whatever.
We can keep the
As
lights
silly
off.
as it sounds,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, as silly as it sounds, like that starts to really mess with someone for time. But they keep it locked up. They keep it in the back somewhere. So yeah, those moments are really powerful. I have a friend whose mom just had a stroke, right? And this is another situation like that where she was an alcoholic and chain smoked her whole life throughout his childhood and stuff. And she just had a stroke. And now she completely quit drinking, quit smoking. She's like more active. She's becoming healthy. So for her, that was that rock bottom. Is there's so many examples of this when I speak to newer clients. By the time they come for like a consultation, we chat about working together. A lot of guys have hit similar things, maybe not like a stroke, but just that kind of like shame and guilt and frustration that they've just realized they actually need the help. When it's awesome they're here doing it now, but it's also sad that we let ourselves go through that in life and suffer with certain things for years before we actually ask for help. Right? You feel that you finally feel that defeat, and that you kind of feel lost. So yeah, powerful moments, man.
It is. And I actually, yesterday, I was actually talking to my wife about the dentist, and she was like, you need to schedule a dentist appointment. And I started to think, when was the last time I went? Because I have a cavity. We're talking about it, and I was like, dude, I am so proactive in basically everything else, but just these small little areas of my life, like the damn dentist, I put off and I put off and I put off until boom, you got a cavity. Oh, I better go to the dentist now. It's like, no, I probably should have been going all this time, right? And that's the exact same thing. And I think that it really it's with, I mean, it's an intrinsic human characteristic, and it carries through to more macro scale things. Like we're seeing that really in politics today and in culture today. It's taken essentially hitting the equivalent of rock bottom for people to say, hey, hold on a second. I'm not really cool with inflation through the roof and gas prices through the roof and my quality of life suffering and X, Y, and Z. And now they're like, okay, I guess I better get politically active. So my hope is that just like my stubborn ass starts going to the dentist more often, people get more involved in their community, take charge of their health and everything else. So it is an important lesson, man. I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
So all right, so you started Muay Thai. Sorry, I was getting a little echo there. You started Muay Thai and you said you got skinny fat, I think, and then you decided to start lifting weights. And then that's what sort of evolved into you becoming a trainer. Did you start training people in person first or straight? Well, this was early days, right? The internet training stuff wasn't even a thing.
Yeah, I think really there's maybe a couple like pioneers back then that were doing it. And still like I've actually met some of them and they're like, I don't know what I was doing. I was just putting shit on YouTube. And then someone wrote me and asked me if I could send them programs.
Right.
So
right.
That was good. Yeah, so I started out at well, first while I was studying to become a trainer and studying nutrition and sports science, I actually ran like a group thing in a bar that had concerts, like shows at it, and band practice rooms and stuff. So my band at the time practiced there, and I would Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 o'clock, I'd go in and sweep up all the beer cans and the glass and mop the floor. And I had this massive locker with just tons of equipment in it. And we just did kind of a like circuit training for like 20 people or something. I called it Crust Fit. So, and this is like, man, maybe like 14 years ago or something. Um, and I wasn't really charging. I had a tip jar. So that was kind of the beginning. And then I started working for 24 Hour Fitness and massive corporate setting. It's the biggest fitness chain in the world. And I worked there for almost 4 years. I did over 10,000 hours of one-on-one personal training sessions.
Wow.
Completely burnt out. I was doing 8 or 9 one-on-one 1 hour sessions 6 days a week. So my workout sucked. My life sucked. And I really had this drive to like hone the craft and just kind of be the best. And I quickly realized that you reach your cap there. The only growth there is to go to middle management and then kind of climb that corporate ladder. So one day they came to me and said, "Hey, congratulations. This is management. This is a regional manager, like a big boss, CEO type. Congratulations, you made the category of top 50 trainers in the company." So for perspective, at the time, there's probably 7 to 8,000 trainers in the whole company.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. And so I was based off of client retention, revenue, and session quality. So I was bringing in like $12,000 a month in terms of revenue, and it was just consistent. But only seeing like a third of that maybe before taxes. So they're like, "So what do you want? You made this category, good job. What do you want?" And I was actually about to go back to Europe for a bit. I was like, "How about like an extra week paid time off?" And they laughed at me and slid me a $25 Starbucks gift card across the desk. So I was like, "Fuck you," threw it back. And the next day, I started my own business. I had 19 clients at 24 at the time, and I talked to all of them. I was like, "Hey, I'm done here. There's no more growth for me. I'm burnt out. My life sucks. I'm going to take the risk." And it's a no-brainer. But at the time, it was like, I'm so comfortable. Like I've got this job. I can show up as guaranteed I'm going to get paid. And then I was like, I'm going to go out on my own. It's just like freaking out. Went into a private personal training studio and ended up taking 17 out of 19 of my clients that I have, developed that relationship with over years, and tripled my income. But I was still kind of working the same amount of time. So since then, I just kind of scaled and scaled and scaled. And then eventually I was just like, this was probably actually, this was 5 years ago now. This month, actually, 5 years ago now, I established the LLC, Iron Will PT, and moved everything online. And that was, another big scare. But I'm addicted to that fear now, right? That's your compass. So those risks, I know that, one might completely flop, but, the other 10 I take probably will work. Maybe it'll be the other way around. I don't know. Either way, I'm going to succeed. So moved everyone online and was in a good position before the scamdemic. And that opened up the opportunity to help coaches or trainers whose businesses were crashing in person, to help them learn how to do this stuff online. And then, since the pandemic, man, it's there's a lot of people doing online coaching now. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. So there are a few things you mentioned that I'd like to revisit. First off, you said when you were at 24 Hour, you were driven to be the best. Is that an intrinsic trait that you've always had, or is that something that developed later in life? Would you attribute that to nature, to nurture? What were your parents like? I'm always curious about high achievers and where that comes from.
Yeah, that's it's a good question, because I think about that myself. I was an insecure, shy, fat kid, right? And I always kind of covered that up with like humor. I was trying to be funny and just kind of, don't pay attention to me, just pay attention to how funny I can be, right? Don't pay attention to my body or my capabilities. So I didn't always have it. But, I'd like to say that fitness was a driver of it, and it's totally true. But when I was busy with the bands, I had that same drive. Because not only was I, writing music and albums and like setting up tours, but I lived in Prague in Czech Republic, and I was doing almost all of the shows there. I was organizing them, all the concerts. I was setting up tours for other bands and driving them, or being a roadie. I was working stage manager at festivals, everything. I had a lot going on. So I was really driven back then. So it's really probably like a borderline autism, to where I have an idea, I'm passionate about it, I want to get it done, and I'm impatient and aggressive about it.
Yeah. Well, you did say that you were an insecure, kind of shy, fat kid. I think a lot of times insecurity, adversity, things like that can drive us to be more, can drive us to achieve. Like I was very embarrassed to be a poor kid with trailer trash parents or whatever, and that was something that I battled with throughout my childhood, and I was embarrassed of. And then when I discovered the gym when I was 15, it was the first time in my life there was something that I could take control of and was strictly based on my merits. You know, it wasn't something like my mom could take from me and sell for drugs or whatever. And so it was kind of like seeing the light, so to speak. Like, here's an outlet where I can put in a certain amount, and what I get back is directly proportionate to that. And I think there could have been a little bit of that with you, right? Like with the music, once you finally found an outlet where you could strive and see the results of that effort, and coming from being like the insecure fat kid, it was like, oh wow, now the world is kind of my oyster type thing. And then it sounds like with fitness a little bit as well. Would you say it's maybe a little bit of that?
No, absolutely. It's because ultimately, like at the end of the day, we're all kind of trying to build some sort of a legacy, right? So when
Yes.
you find that thing that you have a knack for, you're good at, and you enjoy it, you really start to see this path where it's like, okay, I can do fucking great at this and make something of myself, whether it be a legacy of what other people think or just a sense of accomplishment that you've maybe never felt,
Mm.
right? Or at least on a smaller scale than the past, but now you want to like actually prove it to yourself. So you're definitely right, and I think that the fitness was really the accelerator from there. So I think I'd had it from like my late teens and early 20s when I was active doing that stuff, and then kind of got lost for a little bit, being over 300 pounds eventually and all that stuff, and even homeless, and like just I don't know what's wrong with me type of
Yeah.
thing, like I suck type of mentality. And then yeah, found Muay Thai. I was like, oh wow, I'm actually getting good at this. I want to go compete. And then powerlifting. Wow, I'm getting pretty strong. I want to go compete, strongman, all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely a force multiplier, that fitness, right? It enhances all other things in your life, and it only gets better, man. The longer you keep going, the more consistent you are. It just gets better and better and better.
Yeah. And one thing to mention is I think oftentimes people will hear something like this and they're like, oh shit, man, I'm not one of those always driven, always motivated people. And what I like to stress is none of us are, right? Like you have those days where you get up and you're like, man, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get out of bed. I mean, it's being human, right? So how do you deal with those sorts of things?
I actually struggle with that, to be honest. And I know logically that it's part of the game, right? Like not every workout's going to be great, but you show up and you do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also, sometimes your body will send red flags and signals of like, hey, why don't you just chill out for the day? It's okay, right? So I immediately go to like a sense of guilt, right? Where it's like I feel guilty for relaxing and like, I didn't do shit today. But I'm 41 now, and over the last few years, they say wait till you're 40. Well, my hearing's getting worse, my eyesight's getting worse, my rate of recovery is getting worse. So I'm kind of, in a sense, being forced to realize that it's okay to slow down some days. And the lessons I'm learning is that when I listen to that and actually apply it, I'm fresh and ready to go the next day. Right.
Mm.
So, being an entrepreneur, as I'm sure you know, it's pretty tough to stick to your own schedule sometimes. You don't have someone saying, clock out, go home, you did good today, don't worry about it. The only thing separating me from work are these doors right here. That's my living room and where I relax, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to relax, watching a movie, hanging out with the wife, and I'm like fidgeting, like, I could be doing this stuff, right? So you have to be adamant about sticking to a schedule and realizing that you're not a machine. As much as people like to promote this like beast mode machine, like war
No
mentality
days
all day,
off.
every day,
Yeah.
we do have to have these hard skills as men, especially, but also the soft skills, right? And some of that soft skill is your self-care.
Yeah, I agree, man. Our buddy Andy, he talks about on those days where he just doesn't feel like doing anything, just stacking small wins, right? Just
Yeah.
do something. Go like for me, I actually had this the other day. I'm sore as shit because I've been going through a lot of changes with training regimen and my nutrition and everything else. I came off TRT. We're trying to have another baby. So I crashed and, went through recovery and been sore every day getting back into it and didn't want to do anything. I mean, I didn't want to do anything. Like, I didn't want to get on any of my Zoom calls. I didn't want to record podcasts. I didn't want to do shit. And so I got up and did my laundry. And I was like, okay, that felt good. And then I went outside and blew some leaves in the yard to, clean up the yard. Feeling good. Next thing I know, I'm in my groove again. And I'm like, all right, let's go get after it. Let's go record this show. Let's do this. Let's make that call. And so it's a very normal thing, even for hyper productive, quote, overachievers to have those days, man. And I just want to stress that to people because a lot of young dudes listen to this, kind of 18 to 25-year-old dudes, and they're up against a lot of stuff right now. There's sort of several big things that are facing young men. And one is just this outright attack on masculinity as a society. And it's a real issue that they deal with. And on top of that, it's coming to grips with the fact that, just like what you said earlier, this no days off hustle mentality, Gary Vee works 150 hours a day, I should do that too, that kind of thing. They realize that they can't do that. And so then they start to feel worthless, right? And it's like, no, man, you should strive to be whole as a man. You should strive to develop yourself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. And it's okay to say, all right, today I'm going to take a rest from the gym. Maybe I'll do this and this instead. And like you said, we're not machines. And I just like to point that out because it can be easy. And we're all victims of it, right, man? When we post on social media, we show like the better side of things generally, right? It's a highlight reel, so to speak. And people can really start to be like, well, shit, man, I'm not as shredded as Ethan. I'm not, working out and getting it in like him, or my business isn't killing it like his. So I just like to point that out. That's all.
I absolutely agree. It's a lot of it's social media. Everyone is only sharing their wins and their highlight reel, but I think really the most, we'll say successful people in terms of something that I do, the reasons I'm online is making yourself relatable. Right?
Yeah.
And talking about those times and those days where it's like it's not perfect. So I went through a bout of like horrendous insomnia, stress, and the worst panic attacks I've ever had, and it was like ready to dial 911 type of stuff. And this was up until September, so only like over a month ago, right? So June to September, I got really busy, and I was completely transforming the business and just sleeping like 2 hours a day, just running high on cortisol, panic attack, nothing, didn't want to do anything, felt like I couldn't accomplish anything. And I shared that experience, what I was going through. And, the amount of DMs I got was the most I've ever gotten in like 10 minutes, like 80. And it was like, and then, just they kept continued to flow through over a week. Guys saying, hey man, like, I would have never thought that someone like you would deal with like that. I was like, well, I'm not perfect, dude. Like, yeah, I post something, you see a picture of me and I have like a cool caption, but we all deal with shit. And I think that's a really important thing that should be put out in like, well, all things, but my field, fitness, because you see these like shredded, massive, jacked powerlifters, whatever, guys are just ripping tons of weight off the floor, and that's awesome, and it's inspirational. It's good to remember motivation and inspiration. When you take that from someone, it's good and healthy, but you have to remember they're on like chapter 100. You're probably on chapter 1. Not to mention they're not doing that every day, right? They're usually in some level of peak performance, and then they're going to drop off. So you're only seeing this peak performance. And I always kind of use the analogy of like a UFC fighter, right? You see them in top shape, peak performance, performing beautifully, amazing conditioning. They look great. They're going to get fat like a week after that, right? They're like, fuck this. I've been in training camp for like 3 months. I'm sick of this shit, right? So what do? They start off with this idea that you're going to compete on this day, for example, and then they accumulate and they climb that ladder. They accumulate to peak performance. And then there's a massive intentional drop off, right? And this law is universal. It's essentially periodization, right? And we can look at science for it. We can look at all the peer-reviewed studies for training and nutrition, and those are great and important to understand for the health and longevity of your success with whatever you're pursuing. But really, it comes down to nature, like you mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have seasons where things are thriving and in abundance. You have seasons where things are laying low and you're working on other things. That's not to say that your training cycles or anything that you're pursuing needs to be as long as the 4 seasons, but you can condense them into microcycles, into bigger macro cycles. And it's basically up, back down, up, back down, up, back down. So it's a massive wave. And we're only seeing people on social media on this like peak threshold, right? Nobody's like, hey, man, I'm doing an awesome deload week. It's amazing. I'm doing 50% of everything I normally do. I love it, right? Nobody's talking about that, right?
Yeah.
And, I put that shit out there and, it doesn't get as much traction, but it's one of those things that people need to hear. People want to hear certain things, but they also need to hear other things.
Yeah.
So, it's an important thing to realize, I think, when you're scrolling.
It is, man. And I remember, so I grew up, I'm a little younger than you. I'm 35. And I remember the muscle mags in the late 90s, early 2000s, going to the grocery store and standing there looking through the magazines while my grandma was shopping or whatever. And of course, all the magazine photo shoots, dudes are like right before a show, shredded. And I remember when I met my first IFBB pro bodybuilder in real life, and he had like a gut. He was in the off season. He was fluffy and bloated. And I was so confused. I was like, what is going on here? And that's when for the first time, I realized, oh, these guys go through peaks and valleys. They intentionally decondition themselves to put on more mass. And you mentioned the UFC, dude. My favorite is Paddy Pimblett. Do you know who he is?
Yeah.
His cheeks blow up and he gets all
right.
fluffy.
Yeah.
People give him so much shit about it. I love it.
Right.
I want to talk about business as well, because I think a lot of people get overwhelmed just at the thought of starting a business, as they do with most things, right? I think that people generally see a well-established person like yourself, and like you alluded to earlier, you're on chapter 1,000. They might be on chapter 0.5, right? Like they haven't even really started. They're still in the forward. And they're like, dude, how the hell do I even get to that? So can you talk a little bit about how you started your online training business and how it grew and what it looks like now?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I don't think everyone has a plan, right? All right, I'm a relentless action, see what happens. Cool, that worked, that didn't. All right, I think I'm kind of carving my own path here. And the only way to eliminate that is to hire a coach. Someone who's walked in your shoes, they have the knowledge, the experience, right? And same goes for fitness, same goes for fat loss, strength, building muscle, business. So, man, I've invested probably $80,000 into business coaching over the years and always made 2-3-fold back. So there's that, right? So yes. if you're struggling with something, hire a fucking coach. Stop being a stingy bastard. And, if you want to learn how to do this properly and sustainably, just hire a coach with anything you want to do. But I just kind of I created a model to where I purchased a software, or basically purchased software and have this is something I wish I didn't do, but it's pretty cool that I did. I probably spent like $3,000 on a videographer filming like every exercise movement I can think of in terms of what you should do in the gym, and it was fancy. It was like, you know what? I can do this on my phone for free, right? Pretty cool to have that stuff, but there's all these things that you realize like you didn't need to spend that amount of time on it. I think most people in the beginning are thinking about their logo and their website, right?
Yeah.
Spinning their wheels. I didn't have a logo until like a month ago, and this is my like 9th year as a full-time coach, right? No logo, no needed. It's not needed. So I started to just kind of interact with people on social media and just put out value, right? Just value, like, hey, here's something I've learned over the years. Here's something you can implement. Here's how this works. Here's how this works. I'll even kind of, use evidence-based approach so that that I'm not talking out of my ass and saying that you need to put butter in your coffee or whatever for X, Y, and Z reason. And people just started reaching out to me, and I was like, okay, cool. So from there, again, I started to get a little overwhelmed, overbooked, 40, 50 clients at all times. And it was just a one-man show at that point. So then I realized I needed to scale. So I needed, hire a business coach. Um, and started delegating tasks to other people to kind of buy back some more of my time. And now I have two fully booked coaches. I'll be probably hiring a third next month. I've got, appointment setters, I've got copywriters, all that good stuff. So, it takes time and you can get somewhere on your own. But what I experience myself and what I see a lot of people doing is they're excited, they do it, and then like 3 months down the road, they're like, if they succeed, like I succeeded, but I thought I'd be happy, and I'm not because I'm burnt out and I don't know what I'm doing. There's no systems in play, and it's just they're allowing their clients to maybe 24/7 access to them, which is just a nightmare, right? You don't need to be having a dinner with your wife and having like 7 clients with some fitness nutrition emergency blowing you up. Like, hey, could you take a look at my deadlift here? Or like, I feel like eating cake. Should I do that or not? Like people are doing that to themselves, and it's completely pointless. It's unnecessary. So, yeah, there's no perfect plan, but keep going no matter what. It's just like with any other journey. I've made a lot of things, a lot of mistakes that flopped, a lot of things that didn't work. And, there's, of course, an emotional tie to it because you are your business, especially in fitness. You're selling yourself, right? People don't really buy coaching, they buy coaches. So you're selling yourself as a brand. And when things don't go right, it's really difficult to not have that emotional tie to it, right? So you need to learn to deal with that too, and that's something that's not talked about. Everyone's like, "How do I get the most clients and how do I make the most money?" And that's like the main objective. But there's these things that are lost along the way that like you have to have thick skin, and you also have to find balance within that.
Mm. So, what's a typical day look like for you?
So I have first of all, no work Wednesdays and no screen Sundays, right? So no one talks to me on those days, and I don't talk to anyone. Barely even open up, social media on Wednesdays.
That's beautiful.
It's I have that hesitancy and like, I'm gonna go turn the phone on real quick. I'm sure, something like that. No, right? It's me time, it's me and my wife or me and my friends. Um, so I'll tell you what it used to be and I'll tell you what it is now, right?
Okay.
Monday, I would over 40 check-ins, right? So my clients submit a check-in on a Sunday, and Sunday and Monday, I'm doing over 40 check-ins. So for me, that's a personalized video. I assess and analyze things that have been happening and their successes or lack of success in the week, and then give them a personalized video back, right? 45 of those, you're like, I don't want to do anything, right? But then in the evening, I'd have sales calls, right? And then Tuesday, I would wake up and I might communicate with clients a little bit. I'd write my copywriting, content creation, and then sales calls, right? And then I was just doing stuff like that all day, every day. So now, I don't really have any clients. I have coaches who coach them. So I do very few check-ins. I've kept a few like long-term clients around. And then a couple sales calls. Tuesday, I do a couple sales calls, check in with my team members. Wednesday, I don't do anything. Thursday, kind of check in with team members, a couple sales calls, same on Friday, and I'm pretty much done. So I'm basically now getting really close to that 4-hour work week, but it used to be, like a 50-hour work week.
Hmm. Do you have aspirations to do something else now that you've freed yourself up?
That's the question, man. And it's actually kind of the struggle because I've turned my passion and hobby into a career. And now that I've freed up time from it and I've worked really hard towards it, I'm like, I think I need a new hobby.
Mm.
And I don't know what that could be. So it's actually been kind of a dilemma. But I think probably what's going to happen is probably going to end up being like more of a business coach in the long term. And then, like personal stuff, just more travel. I haven't been able to travel as much as I used to. So kind of miss that. But yeah, I'll probably step into the role of a business coach.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I think that's an area you offer a lot of value to people. if you wanted to do that. And then of course there's always, I always tell people podcasting is fun. It is a little saturated. There's a ton of them, but it's cool because you can take an area that you essentially turn a passion into a career, and then you can explore all kinds of verticals related to that, which is awesome. Like coaching other coaches, for example. But then you could write books, you could do a podcast. There's so many cool things you could do now that you've taken the measures to create systems and processes, right, to where you free yourself up. And it's just, I love seeing that evolution in people. That's one of my favorite things, is seeing people sort of progress through those different steps. And I talked about this when I did Andy's podcast a while back, but I used to own a chain of restaurants. That was the company that I had from 2014 to 2018. Thankfully, man, I sold right at the end of 2018 before all hell broke loose over the next year and a half or so. And that was just serendipity. It wasn't like I could predict that would happen, but I would have absolutely had to file bankruptcy if I still owned my restaurants through COVID. It was awful what they did to people, man. But I learned sort of the same thing. It was like I was trying to do everything in the beginning. I was trying to, touch every single part of the business. And for me, it was realizing that it's not sustainable. There's no way you can do this. And you have to, I don't know if you grapple with this at all, but trusting people with your baby, right? Like for me, once I had multiple locations and I had to hire general managers to oversee each of them and pay them a really good salary, it was really tough for me to just let them hire their people, let them do their thing. And I don't know if you struggle with that at all and have had to figure out ways to grapple with that. But leading leaders, I think, is one of the toughest things that I struggled with my business.
Yeah, it's again, it's that emotional tie, right? Like you built the brand, you built the business, and it's your life, it's your livelihood. And it's not just, the service you provide for other people, but it's also, directly linked to your survival as a man and, providing for your family. So that putting that trust into someone else's hands is terrifying, right? So I've definitely been dealing with that. I don't currently have like a manager overseeing anything, but I will eventually. But that person is going to have been working for me for quite a while until that happens. But even giving someone like access to your social media handle, or I'm the one meeting new clients and then onboarding them and handing them over to new coaches. I'm like, hey, you're representing me, my brand, my face, right? Like, are you doing a good job? So, you with the restaurant, obviously that's gonna be different, but I always kind of do like a checkup, follow up with people who are working with the coaches, and I fully 100% trust them. They're my friends at this point,
good.
And I've seen their skill set. But 100% of the time when I check in with these clients, like after they've been working with them for a few weeks, like how's everything going? They're excited. They love their coach. So it's really brought that stress down. But in the beginning, when I was still kind of just delegating things to people, I'm like, all right, how's this going to work? Yeah, man, those were like the panic attacks and the stress and the insomnia. I'm just like, oh shit, this, there's a lot of potential for this to just completely unravel right now.
Yeah. Especially when you are the brand, right? So like with these t-shirts, even the first guy I was working with printing them, there were some quality control issues. And for me, if somebody got a t-shirt in the mail, they're seeing it as a t-shirt from Dave Hurt, right? Like they don't know that it's this other dude necessarily who made it. I mean, I'm sure if they really thought about it, they would, but they're looking at it as, man, David Hurt sent me a shitty t-shirt. Right. And so a lot of people probably join your coaching because of you. And if they have a bad experience, even though it was some other coach or whatever, they're like, Ethan Buck, that motherfucker. That's just how it is when you are the face of the brand.
Exactly.
Andy Frisella is a friend of mine, and I've been working with Phorm for almost 5 years now. And if somebody gets like a faulty thing of protein, they're like tagging him and being like, your protein sucks. And he's like, dude, we'll take care of the problem for you, but I didn't make that, So
Right.
it requires this level of trusting the people that you hire. So I think everybody goes through it.
Yeah, you have that, and then you have the other side is essentially like a customer service, which some people are just fucking shitty, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
someone has these unrealistic expectations of something, and then you get these shitty messages out of nowhere, and like, hang on, like we're upholding our end of the agreement, and it seems like you're maybe not, or you expected champagne, cocaine, and a blowjob with this, and you didn't get it, and now you're fucking pissed off. It's like, what? We're doing what we're supposed to be doing here, and you're like the first person in like a year to ever complain about anything. Like, what? Let's fix this somehow. It's just they're just irrational, and they feel they paid some money, so they feel very entitled. So there's two sides of that coin that that can flip really quick sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that as a coach, it's important to realize you can fire a client as well.
Yeah. But you hired me. Like, yeah, what does that tell you?
Exactly.
Or I hired you,
Yeah. Well, another aspect to that's always just been mind-boggling to me is when people will pay you for coaching and then not do anything you tell them and not make any efforts to improve. It's like, man, you're stroking me a check every month. You're not doing any of this stuff. What's going on here? Do you experience that at all?
Occasionally, used to a lot in the past, not so much anymore. I kind of have like a pretty thorough screening process of clients who we think would be a good fit. But yeah, it happens sometimes. And as a coach, you need to be kind of an investigator as to what's happening in someone's life. And it's not usually the plan, because the plan is usually pretty simple. If you stick to a simple plan, it's going to be highly effective. Usually it's just kind of other 23 hours of the day that I talk about a lot. Stress, poor sleep, mindset issues, lifestyle issues, relationships, whatever. So we really kind of specialize in kind of dissecting that and analyzing like what is preventing someone from sticking to this very basic, simple plan that we've actually created for them to meet them where they're at. Right. Mm-hmm. So we don't just say, hey, you signed up, here's a program and here's a diet. We actually take a look at all the stuff in terms of where you're at with nutrition, movement capabilities, exercise experience, lifestyle, sleep, stress, gut health, all the stuff. It's a full spectrum approach. So after that process that I am 100% faithful in that works, if someone's not adhering to something that we've laid out to them, there's usually something else going on. And you can kind of see it, like they'll get kind of shitty with their check-ins and their mood is just kind of crappy.
Yeah.
And they're kind of projecting it onto you, and you just ask the simple questions like, well, let's be honest, like what is preventing you from going to the gym like 3 times a week? Or what is preventing you from, not eating that processed stuff and having, the meat and potatoes? And it's usually a sigh. I'm just not doing the work. Right. And then this feeling of defeat. So we have to have those conversations with clients and call them out a little bit. I'm not like a drill sergeant type of coach. I'm a little more empathetic because I understand, again, we're not machines. But, if you have that kind of come to Jesus conversation with people, they'll usually kind of just realize like, okay, so, we usually do like a 90-day agreement to start with. Most of our clients stick around for years. Sometimes that first half of the 90 days is this kind of dance between, the client and the coach, right? To where they're like, the client is trying to tell the coach what they're going to do and what they want to do. And the coach is saying, well, that's awesome. We'll keep that in mind, but here's what you need to be doing first, right? And there's a lot of pushback with some guys. And I always say we specialize in coaching men, not that we don't coach women. We have plenty of awesome female clients. But I always say if we specialize in coaching women, I'd probably make a lot more money, because guys are brilliant at this. I know what I'm doing. I don't need your help. I'm like, well, you reached out and paid me a lot of money for my help. So what are you talking about? Right. And they continue this kind of attitude even after the fact. So it's an interesting dance.
It is. And it's funny to me because I've done good amount of coaching in the past. It was actually what I did after I sold my business for quite a while when I was just doing what I was passionate about. And I actually, so I, because of my situation or what have you, I coached people for free for like a year just because I wanted to show that I could do it, and offered to help people with their training for free and with their nutrition and everything. And it was always funny to me when this would happen, because a lot of times it would be something like this. It would be a guy who reaches out. He says, "Hey man, you have the ideal physique. I want to look like that. I want to hire you to help me." I'm like, okay. And I had a pretty thorough questionnaire. Usually I would have them track everything they did for a week without making any changes, so I could see what they've been up to, and looking at their training protocol and everything, if there was one. And then I would make my changes and write out the plan and everything. And then there's pushback, right? Just like you're talking about, there's resistance. And I'm empathetic to an extent, but I'm also brutally honest. I'm like,
Yeah.
you came to me because what you want to do doesn't fucking work. That's why you came to me, because all these things you want to change, you've been doing and they don't work. So now we're going to do things my way. You want to look like me. I'm pretty good at looking like me. So here's what we do. And sometimes just having that really brutal like just in their face conversation, a switch goes off. And sometimes it doesn't, but that was my experience anyway.
Yeah. Most people, reasonable people, adults will take that to heart. And then irrational, maybe non-adult, grown babies will see that as a challenge and be like, this guy's an asshole. I'm like, well, look, we've tried to address the issues. We've done the work. And, sometimes I'll point out, like, you're actually the first person in like 5 years to have this issue here with us. If it really gets to that point, like really trying to get into their mind and let them see that it's their perspective and expectations of things that's holding them back. This plan seems too easy. Like, well, you can put intensity into the workouts, for example. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think the more experienced lifters all know that less is more, right? You do higher intensity sets, but leave the gym feeling good. You don't need to be completely exhausted doing this like 6 day a week, like crazy hardcore, like the fitness magazines you're talking about, right?
Yeah. That high volume, ridiculous stuff.
Yeah. And people think that that's what they got to do to get into that shape, right? And like, well, first of all, whether this is a magazine from the 90s or social media now, you're looking at these programs that these guys are doing, and you're like, well, first, this is like after maybe 15 to 20 years of that person's experience, not to mention a shit ton of drugs that allows them to handle that kind of volume and recover at a much better rate than you or I. Plus, they get paid to do that. It's their job. It's their lifestyle. You are a dad bod with 3 kids that sleeps 5 hours a night and shits once a week. That's a problem, right? We got to fix it, right? And your left shoulder's hiked up to your ear or whatever. Your right foot's on backwards. We've got other stuff to work on. That's why your plan is so simple.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Like, yeah, you're not going to be this guy, and doing what he does is not going to turn you into him like that. You're not some genetic anomaly that's just going to turn into an elite level lifter and get shredded and jacked in like a couple months. It's not going to work that way. Never has, never will.
And that's a big issue today with the double-edged sword of having all the knowledge in the world right here in the palm of your hand, is that people get so in the weeds over qualitative things like, should I do this or should I do that, or paleo or carnivore or this or that or keto or this, and should I do and it's like, man, and that's why I started talking about this thing I call the 6 principles, because my educational background, I did my undergrad in biochem, and then I studied comparative physiology in grad school, and so I've always taken a very scientific approach to fitness, and I'm just a nerd. And it's so funny because I put out this video on the 6 principles, and it's literally just, it's protein, calories, water, weights, cardio, sleep. That's it. And then I have criteria for each of those 6 things. And I had like Steve Cook, who's a big fitness model personality guy, commenting like, this is too simple. There's so many factors that are important and I'm like, this is the problem, man. People don't know where to start. They're confused. They're scared. They don't want to walk in a gym and look like an idiot. They don't know what they should eat. They don't know anything. And then they shut down. They get analysis paralysis and they shut down. This is a starting point. All right. If you want to just get the ball rolling, do these 6 things consistently. And then it's like rowing a boat in the ocean. You can't see all the way to the destination, but you just go towards the horizon. And when you get there, you can see further. Right. And that's what I try to tell people. It's like, man, right now you're such a mess. If you could just start knowing your caloric intake each day and knowing your protein intake and knowing how much water you drink each day, and then going for a 30-minute walk each day or whatever, that's a huge stride in the right direction. But then you've got people coming and saying, no, you need alkaline water and you need this thing and that thing. And it's like, man, people are defeating themselves before they even get started because they overcomplicate it. And it's like, no, these things, calories, protein, water, weights, cardio, sleep, do well in those. And then we can talk about everything else. Right. But yeah, it's frustrating to me, as you can tell.
No, it's I only preach the basics to people, and I get pushback from people too. Like, this is too basic. Like, yeah, well, until you fucking mastered the basics, I'm going to keep talking about them.
You're like 60% of people are obese, man. Like, the majority of Americans are obese. They need the basics.
Right. Look, I'm not trying to speak to elite level athletes here, or
exactly
IFBB pros. Those people don't need me. I'm talking to people who struggle to navigate their way through health and fitness, because they're getting caught up in these little pebbles when they should be moving the boulders, right?
Exactly.
Protein, calories, water,
yep.
cardio, sleep, weights, right? That's it. And then, you break that down. People have such paralysis by analysis. You break down the simplicity of it, the things they should be adhering to, and then it kind of goes over their head and it's like, well, what time should I eat? And what supplements should I take? Like, look, let's
forget about
these specific things. Let's get these major boulders in place first, gain some momentum with them, pushing them up that hill. Yep. And then we can talk about some other stuff that you might want to be concerned with. But people are sweating the minors too much, right? You need to master the majors before you really worry about these other little things. No supplement's going to help you speed up your progress if you can't even eat enough protein throughout the day, or train properly, or sleep, or walk enough. So it's interesting to see people. And there's the Dunning-Kruger effect, if you know what that is.
Yes,
where
I do.
you get that pushback from people like, this is real basic information. I'm like, post your physique, dude. Like, let's see that. It's a silly thing, but it's usually a fat guy or a skinny fat guy that's being like, this is. I put out an ebook called The Testosterone Solution: How to Naturally Increase Your Testosterone, and it covers just that, like diet, activity, daylight, sleep, stress, and toxin reduction. Right, so we're not going to be fully ever away completely from toxins, and I'm not too worried about most of them. But some toxins you want to try and avoid for that purpose, right?
Absolutely.
And I put it out, and just the other day I tweeted about it, and I got like 800 downloads, which is amazing. And a couple just jackasses, right, to my email that's in the ebook wrote me like, you could have just tweeted this. I didn't have to go through this process and read this. It seems like really simple stuff. I'm like, I didn't respond, but I said, motherfucker, did you learn something? Do you implement these things already? Like, plus you have an ebook that goes into detail. I'm not going to tweet about it, right? Like, and it's free. It's a free ebook, and you're complaining about it. But
I was going to ask if you charged for it. Yeah, that's preposterous. Free. They're upset that the free book wasn't a tweet.
It wasn't a tweet, and it's just basic information. Like, well, if you're interested in those things, you probably either don't know about them, or you're looking for some like magic hack or trick or something that doesn't exist, unless you just go straight to TRT, which is fine if you need it. But
yeah, it is. So I'd been on TRT for a little while because I was a knucklehead and ran a lot of stuff when I was younger, I thought I was going to be a bodybuilder or whatever, and I pretty much do everything at 100 miles per hour, and sometimes it's great, and other times it's not so great. So anyway, um, I came off TRT a few months ago, and I've been doing all sorts of things to naturally raise my test because we're trying to have another child, and it's been really cool to me because I have recovered and I feel great, and like I feel better than when I was on TRT, and my libido is better than when I was on TRT. And I mean, like my wife is telling me this. She's like, dude, this is wild. And I don't know if I'll go back on it until I absolutely have to, like later into my 40s, hopefully, because I feel great, man.
See, that's an interesting thing. Is I've been on TRT for about 3 years now, and I'm a hyper responder for sure. Like they started me out
Yeah.
on 200 a week, and my levels just went crazy. I was getting the sides and everything. So I do like 140 a week. But actually now
That's
I'm
awesome.
tapering down because we're going to be same thing, trying to have a kid here pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
First, hopefully. So I've been kind of curious, like how that's going to feel. I'm going to go the HCG route. Um, but yeah, I was like, maybe I'll feel great and I won't need to go back on it. Who knows? We'll see. Um, it's a lifelong commitment when you do it, pretty much. So it's one of those things. It can be a slippery slope. I'll tell you, like though, for the people who really need it, like I really needed it. My
Mm-hmm.
levels were declining, even with the healthy lifestyle and all the optimal stuff. Um, but I know I have some clients who like absolutely need it. I mean, they're hypogonadal, symptomatic, and their
Yeah.
numbers
Yeah.
are in the tank. Like, and not just total. I'm talking like free test and higher levels of sex binding hemoglobin and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Um, so some people really, really benefit from it, but I think that most guys, up until their 40s, mid 40s, probably pretty good without it. But there's genetic components to it too. I know we're starting to
Oh,
talk about different
absolutely.
stuff here with
Yeah.
testosterone, but
No.
there's genetic components and traumas and head injuries. I've had 3 concussions and violent traumas and stuff. So that was kind of my thought process as to what's going on with it when I started it like 38, 39 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe that's it. But prior to that, my lifestyle was like no sleep, hard drugs, extreme, lifestyle, violence, all that kind of stuff, and then working night shifts and things like that. So it was like, yeah, it's no wonder.
Yeah.
And I fixed a lot of that with the things I wrote inside of the ebook. But yeah, eventually it started just kind of slowly coming back down. But
I
who
think
knows? Yeah.
it's an inevitability for us guys eventually, man. But I only said that because I was shocked. I thought for sure I'm just on TRT for life. Because I abused anabolics in my mid 20s. Like I don't mind saying that. I ran a gram of test, 700 milligrams of tren. I just it was ridiculous, man. I was 275 pounds with abs, and but now I want to be functional. I love the outdoors. I want to be able to start jujitsu with my daughter and actually be able to roll with her and all these things that are way more important to me, man. And so and the energy levels, it's wild how good my energy levels are after recovering on my own. I mean, recovery was awful. Once I came off and the ester wound down, and after the few weeks of the half-life continuing to half itself, and then next thing I know, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I'm at zero here. It was bad, dude. Energy levels were bad. I was my mental state was messed up. It was just awful. But I expected it. I knew it was going to happen. My wife was supportive, and I was honest with her, like, hey babe, I got no drive right now. There's no way I probably can't even get it up, honestly. And so, but then it started to come back, and now I'm just like, dude, I feel great. It's so you dudes out there, there is hope. There's all kinds of natural things you can do to raise your test, and definitely I would check out Ethan's ebook because I sort of wrote that off as like a lot of that stuff is not effective, and just take testosterone, forget tribulus or whatever, and all the different shit that people talk about, Tongkat Ali and all the different herbs and everything, and never gave anything a chance, man. And dude, I'm surprised, I guess. So I'll leave it
Yeah,
at that.
it's not immediate stuff, and it requires work, and that's what a lot of people are
Yeah.
just like, I don't really want to do that. And if going straight to intramuscular injections is your thing, then do that. But really, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is just being healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what does that mean to people? Most people don't know what it means to just be healthy, right? So we are talking about a healthier lifestyle where you do manage your stress and you really put high priority on good quality sleep, and you exercise but not too much. A lot of people are overtraining, and that's tanking your testosterone too, by the way, right? You don't allow yourself to recover from your lifts, you tank, right? That more is not always better, and that's something I always promote as well. And your diet, right? Are you trying to like lose 50 pounds in a month by crash dieting? Are you doing these like keto carnivore diets, which, by the way, lower your testosterone, right? Why does that happen? Well, they increase chronic levels of cortisol. Now, to be
Cortisol.
clear,
Yeah.
this isn't 100% cases. Some people do phenomenal with them and they feel great, right? Most cases increase cortisol, and the suppression of insulin actually causes a spike in sex-binding hemoglobin, which lowers your free testosterone, right? So you've got this kind of mixed thing here going on with those diets. So, a well-balanced diet, being healthy, right? At the end of the day, the body wants to be healthy, right? It wants to stay healthy and strong. You just have to allow it to through your efforts.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. And it's, people don't want to hear that, well, I read your ebook and I tried that stuff for a couple of days. I didn't really feel anything. It's like, well, just expect this
No
massive,
shit.
like, spike and increase and just be this jack dude all of a sudden. Like, no, it takes work. And we're talking like months, right? We're talking about like optimizing hormones naturally through lifestyle change and diet and how you exercise. Not too much, not too little. It's going to take a long time, just like fat loss, right? But if you do it right, you keep the results. And what does that mean, right? Well, basically, that means that if you do it right and take the right steps, you've developed and solidified the habits to get there that you can now sustain because you understand it. It's just a part of your life, right? There's no quick fixes here. In
Yeah.
terms of testosterone, of course, there are, but that's not the healthiest thing. I've never done anything other than TRT. But I couldn't imagine. I'm kind of a hypochondriac. I couldn't imagine doing more than I currently do, plus stacking other stuff. I would freak out. I'd have panic attacks and be, oh, I'm done. I'm dying.
Yeah. Look, man, I won't sugarcoat it. You feel like a god in the gym. I mean, it is, they work, right? It's people take them for a reason. And what I found was when I ran high levels of stuff, the only time I felt good was in the gym. That was the kicker, right? Like I had low energy outside of the gym. All I wanted to do was eat and lay around. Yeah, but when I got in the gym, my aggression was high. I killed it. I mean, the pumps are ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure you've noticed some change in that, even with TRT, how your muscles respond in intra training. But it works for sure. But to young guys listening, just realize you pay a price. So really consider that.
Yeah, I say this a lot is obviously the gym is a great outlet, but if it's your only outlet to feel better or have like a better mood or change your state of mind, then maybe you're not as healthy as you think.
That's good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's other things you can do to improve your mood or your energy, and the gym should definitely be one of them. I'm not disregarding that before anyone's like, yeah, he says work out, don't work out. It's not that. It's there's got to be other aspects of your life and health and thought patterns that improve your mood and the way you feel, right? So yeah, the gym shouldn't be the one and only one.
Well, get outside, go for a walk in the sunshine, read books. I mean,
yeah
what works
you know what
works.
I used to hate cleaning the house, but now I've got some downtime. Like, cool, it's an off day, or I already worked out. Like, I'm just gonna put some good music on and clean the house. And like you said earlier, stacking small victories. Like, if you're having a day where you're not like, I'm not feeling it, or maybe it's just a day you're not scheduled to lift, and you don't feel that great, there's a lot you can do that stack those small victories. I love going out and using the leaf blower, right? I did something today, right? It's one of those things.
I'm literally, after we record this, I'm going home and blowing and raking leaves. And I'm looking forward to it because I'm going to put my AirPods in. I'm going to listen to a book on tape, I guess technically it's not a book on tape anymore. I'm dating myself, but an audiobook or a podcast or something. And just that's my meditation, man. Like I really enjoy that. And you're so right. If it's just the gym, then you're probably not as healthy as you think. Absolutely. Because health is not just your physique. You know, there's so much more to it, dude.
When you look at blue zones, the people who live the longest
Mm.
and in a diseased-free state or less cases of diseases, and they also have a higher quality of life. It's not just lifespan; it's health span, right?
Hmm.
They used to look at just their diet, right? So it was like Mediterranean diet, Okinawan diet, like what
Yeah.
should we all be eating? And then the more they studied it, they realized that they had obviously the diet, but they also had active lifestyle. They're in their 90s, they're riding bicycles, they're gardening. And then they also realized that they had strong social ties. So social
Hmm.
health is an aspect of health that's often overlooked, right? And it's a really important one. And then finally, spiritual practice, whether that's religion, meditation, some just becoming maximally present throughout the day and not being caught up in stressful
Yes.
things. So
Yeah.
it's really like a five-legged chair if you think about it.
Yeah.
It's not
It
one. I work out and I eat good, I'm good. No, there's a lot more that goes into your health and well-being than just lifting and eating right. Those are at the forefront of your successes with these things. But a lot of people struggle to get to those front lines, right? And if they do get there, they fall backwards just because they're neglecting these other things in life that are really massively important. They're overlooking them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, man. So I started, I don't coach much anymore, but I do work with guys occasionally, more just p- passion projects, I guess the best way to put it. So I started working with a guy and he wants help with nutrition. And I said, all right, well, first I want you to write down physical, mental, spiritual, relationships, finance, and beside each of those, I want you to write a 90-day target, where you are and where you want to be. And he's like, I want nutrition coaching. I'm like, I know, but these things are important, right? And a lot of people underestimate the role, you mentioned it earlier, the role of cortisol in your stress levels. And if you're that dude who's just training and that's all you're doing for yourself, because I do think that challenging your body is a form of self-love. I think it's the ultimate form of self-love, right? Uh, you're probably having crazy cortisol spikes if you're not finding um, enlightenment spiritually, if you're not expanding your knowledge base, if you're, all these really important things. I truly believe, especially as men, because we are incredibly carnal, primal, limbic system driven creatures if we don't check that, right? And if you don't use your cortex, a lot of times you fall back on your limbic system and the lizard brain takes over, especially with guys, because we are just testosterone and protect and provide and all these things that we're biologically driven to do. So we've gone a little over an hour, but I have to ask, kind of last thing with you, and I don't want to take too much of your day, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you especially, and I'll say a phrase and then I just kind of want you to respond with your thoughts. Masculinity today.
Um, Declining.
Hmm. Go on that.
Yeah. Go with it.
Yeah, elaborate on that a little bit more. What are your thoughts there?
Well, just look at the school systems, what they're teaching kids,
Hmm.
right? And they're teaching young boys that it's bad to be how they naturally are, right? They're trying to be put them in this little box, and school systems have become this like hyper feminine place. And it's gone way out of balance. That pendulum's completely swung to where they're removing gym classes and young boys can't compete amongst each other anymore. And if they act out, they're bad and they're toxic, and it's a terrible thing. But in reality, they probably feel completely suppressed
Hmm.
and don't have like a physical outlet that every biological male has within them. That it's just a necessity. So I think it's on a decline. And then we have like the other, messages in society. And then something, this might start getting into conspiracy theory, but there's something fucking dudes up, right? On a massive scale. And it's probably, as with most things, it's probably a combination of several things. But there's something that's really shutting men down. And,
Mm.
meds, water, toxins, who knows? I think it's probably an abundance of lots of things. But, a low testosterone man with fatigue, low energy, no sex drive, no aggression is not going to be very masculine, right? So it's definitely declining. On the plus side, though, and maybe it's just because I moved to Texas from Portland, Oregon, so it's like polar opposite. On the plus side, I do see a lot of younger guys that are like, "Fuck this! Like, I'm not falling for that shit." Right? So,
Yeah.
I'm more optimistic about it than I used to be.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, man. A lot of those younger guys are in my inbox. I hear from them every day, and it's just the big thing they grapple with is how do I embrace my drive from within to be this competitive, hardworking. I did a video recently that broke down Healthline's definition of toxic masculinity, and this is literally what they listed out, man. Physical and mental toughness, toxic masculinity. Stoicism, toxic masculinity. Aggression, toxic masculinity. Self sufficiency, toxic masculinity. It's like every single one of these things are the things that made me into the successful man I am today.
Yeah,
Isn't that wild?
it's crazy. I mean, it's probably derived from people who had like a shitty dad, right? And then that's what
Mm-hmm.
they define as masculinity. A dad that was just an asshole to him, beat him, really mean to him, or something like that. But at the end of the day, like strong people don't put others down; they uplift them.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a real masculine trait. And I'm not just purely masculine, but it's usually what accomplished stronger men do for others around them.
Yeah, I agree. And in my opinion, man, one of the most important aspects to masculinity, because people conflate being a male with masculinity, right? There are masculine and feminine traits that both men and women exhibit at various points and in response to different stimuli. Like for example, with my wife, she can be more fully feminine because of me, right? Because I fill that masculine void in her life. There's no need for her to step into her masculine energy, as folks would say, right? So she's focused on being a nurturing mother, on all the things that she really truly wants to do. And I know a lot of single women who, unfortunately, they're like, I wish I could be fully in my feminine energy, but I have to sort of embody masculine traits because I'm a single woman and there's no man to fill that void in my life, right? So men and women both have masculine and feminine traits. And I think often what happens, like to go off of what you were saying, is that a weak, insecure man who channels his aggression in those manners is often mistaken as toxic masculinity. But that is like the antithesis of masculinity, period. That's not masculinity at all. That's insecurity. That's so to me, masculinity involves being emotionally vulnerable with my wife and being sort of the warrior poet, as people will put it, right? Like you can turn on that aggressive, physical, testosterone driven version of you when you need to protect and do what has to be done. But also, you're this caring, supportive, uplifting, emotionally vulnerable man to your wife and to your daughter or whoever in your life. That to me is the ultimate masculine man. Does that make sense? Would
No,
you agree with that? Or
absolutely. No, 100%, 100%. And this is another thing that people probably don't like to hear. It's not talked about enough, but it does come down to balance, right? Again, hard skills and
mm-hmm,
soft skills. Just like
mm-hmm.
with fitness, you can't overtrain and expect to see progress. You need those down days. You need those down weeks, even at times. People don't want to hear, especially the younger guys, right? So
Yeah,
you talk about having that kind of lighter side and being more emotionally vulnerable with a partner. To a younger aggro guy, he's going to be like, "Fuck this bitch," right?
mm,
But as you
unfortunately,
get
yeah.
older, wisdom should be coming with that, and you understand that these things do ultimately come down to a certain balance. and everything now is completely out of balance in society. So, and I like to take a lot of wisdom from like the ancients, like the
Same.
samurais and stuff. They're talking
Mhm.
about being, a warrior poet, a warrior in the garden, instead of the gardener in the war type of stuff. And you can't overlook those things. You can't be the aggro, aggressive, 100% of the time guy. You're going to burn out and have a heart attack eventually. And
Yeah.
speaking of cortisol, right? Stress hormone cortisol gets a bad rap. It's necessary. We've got it going through our veins right now. It's the earlier part of the day, right? It's what wakes you up. It's what gets you through shit. But when it's chronically elevated, everyone's talking about being anabolic, but no one's talking about anti-catabolic activity,
Yeah.
right? That is your downtime. That is your sleep. That is your being more well-rounded and relaxed.
Yeah.
So same with masculinity, right? There's the hard time, and there's the time when it's like, I need to help. My wife filled this void, and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that a lot. Yin and yang, right? When I'm feeling like super aggro and aggressive with, not like angry, like I'm going to beat someone up, but like with work or things that I'm driven towards, that breath is usually spending time with my wife when she's in her feminine version of herself.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. What would you, and we can end it on this, because you've already been gracious with your time. What is one piece of advice you would give to young men today who are grappling with these issues?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think about what I would tell myself in that position back then, but I think for me, I probably wouldn't have listened. Right, I was too caught up in my own shit. So for younger guys, is kind of caveman style, but just start lifting, start eating right, and taking care of yourself, and finding yourself. And if something feels right to you, it probably is for you. You should
Mm,
follow that, right? And don't get caught up in what other people are saying about it, or what your friends think about it, or what they say about it. If it feels right to you, follow it. Because you're still very impressionable at a younger age. And if you're surrounded by a society or a group of people or friends or even family that disagree with a thought pattern of yours, a thought process or opinions or what you're doing with your life, but what's right for you, you're passionate about it, you got to cut some of those people out of your life and step away from that group. And I've been through that process, leaving that crazy lifestyle to where those people like to put you in this little box, right? They've labeled you, right? My friend here is the way that he is. And really, what that kind of comes down to is they want to be above you. They want to make sure that you're a little bit below. Those are toxic people.
mm,
You need to get rid of them, right?
yeah. Yeah.
You need to find people that have similar desires and pursuits as you, and acknowledge your wins and successes and encourage you to do more, right? And maybe even also at the same time call you out when you're slacking, or you did something stupid, you said something stupid, had some poor behavior. Those are your friends. Your friends are the ones that will call you out on your shit but not make you feel like shit about it, right? People who aren't your friends will stay quiet about something like that and then talk to other people about it. So yeah, make sure you find the right people. I didn't start finding the right people in terms of those things probably until I was in my 30s, right?
Mm,
Not to say people I knew and associated with before that were terrible. I still have a lot of friends from back then. But as soon as I started expressing myself and bettering myself and just, transcending, that large group of friends shrunk down by a lot. And it was kind of tough to go through, but eventually I realized, especially now looking back, those people are on meds. They're fat, they're sick, they're depressed. They've got the same job for like 30 years. I did the right thing, and I'm confident in it. I don't feel bad about it. So yeah, make sure you surround yourself with the right people.
great advice, brother. All right, Ethan, where can everybody go to find you online?
So ironwillpt.net is the website. At iron_will_pt is Instagram and Twitter.
All right, man. And so if people are interested in training, they should hit up your website and then they can follow you on either of those platforms to see what you're up to in general.
Yeah, website or even shoot a DM on the platforms.
All right. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time, brother. This was great stuff. I really enjoyed our conversation. I definitely want to have you back sometime. Everybody listening, until next time, keep your minds free.